Okay, by show of hands, how many of you have heard of a pangolin before? I hadn't heard of it either before doing this research topic. I've done a lot of research on the pangolin, so I feel that I'm pretty credible on the subject. My purpose today is to inform you about what a pangolin even is and how it's very unique, and also to explain why it is the most trafficked animal in the world right now. First, I'm going to describe what a pangolin is. Second, I'm going to explain why they're trafficked. And third, I'm going to explain the impacts of the heavy trafficking on the species itself, but also the humans involved in the trade. Pangolins are a very amazing animal, but they are rapidly going extinct due to this trafficking. First off, pangolins are one of the most unique mammals on the planet. According to fascinating pangolin facts from African Geographic Stories written February 19th, 2019, the pangolin is like a scaly anteater mixed with an armadillo type sloth thing, but it's actually not related to any of those three species at all. It's actually way more closely related to raccoons, pandas, and polar bears, which is very interesting. They have no teeth, so they often swallow rocks and pebbles to grind up their food in their stomach as it churns because they can't chew the food themselves. They do eat a lot of insects though, so the chewing required isn't too strenuous. They eat a lot of ants and beetles and things like that. And they also have a nasal cavity and ears that close up when they're eating their food, because often they're eating in ant hills, and if the ants crawl over them, they won't be able to get into their ears and nose when they close up like that. They are also the only mammal on the earth with scales, and the scales are about 20% of their body weight. And their scales actually bring me to my second point, which is why the pangolins are so heavily trafficked in recent years. According to a struggle to save the scaly pangolin in the New York Times from March 2015, the scales are highly prized for the medicinal purposes in China and Vietnam. They're believed to help a lot of different things like asthma, skin ailments, arthritis, and honestly just any skin problem in general. But there really is not any science to back up these claims that they do help with these problems that people have. They're actually made of keratin, which is the same thing that our hair and our nails are made of, so it's almost like they're using fingernails in medicine as opposed to something a little more legit and scientific. The meat of the pangolin is also considered a delicacy in China, which is another reason that it is also trafficked like that. Hundreds of pounds of the scales are seized every year, and they're often disguised as various goods, like they could be hidden in a bag of dog biscuits or in equipment for communication and things like that. And since these pangolins are so prized, millions of pangolins have been trafficked in the last decade at least, bringing me to my final point of the effects of the high trafficking on the species and the people involved. In the article, The Scale of Pangolin Slaughter Revealed from The Guardian in July 2017, one half of the pangolins caught are often juveniles because they are a little more inexperienced in dealing with predators, and just because they often roll up into a ball as a defense mechanism instead of running away, which works with their natural predators but not with humans, because humans can just pick them up in the ball and throw them in a box or something. By catching all the juveniles, that is very bad for the future generations because they do not have time to produce offspring. So if they're taking the younger generation away and the older generation has already had their children, then there really isn't much of a future there for the species. The species is also very shy and nocturnal, so it's hard to estimate the population size, but they are believed to be on their way to extinction just based off the number they find trafficked and dead and things like that. The effects seen on people aren't as drastic. It's more their way, a lot of people's way of making a living, which is unfortunate because a lot of times these poachers are living in poor rural areas in Africa and Southeast Asia, and the incentive to catch the pangolins and trade them to middlemen is way higher than the incentive to stop and find a new job, because the pay is one of the best they're going to get in the places they're living. I got that fact from nearly 9,000 pangolins trafficked worldwide from CGTN in February 2020. Pangolins are very unique, very trafficked, and there are lots of devastating effects on the species and even humans due to their trafficking, and they are on their way to extinction if things continue the way they are.